My boyfriend is a serious germaphobe and resents even holding my hand. However, 2 years after breakup, he actually rushed up, hugged, and kissed me. I had an extremely clean freak boyfriend. His room was always spotless, never a speck of dust. What pained me the most was that he treated me the same way. Fine, fine, fine. If I can't handle it, I'll just leave. Goodbye, Your Highness. That day, after being scolded by my boss, I dragged my tired body back to the apartment I shared with James. I had worked overtime until very late. As soon as I opened the door, James, sitting at his desk, said without even looking up, "Change your slippers and take a shower." I took a deep breath. Already reeling from my boss's criticism, I didn't know if I was just upset or what, but tears of frustration started falling. Not only did I not change my slippers, I carelessly threw my bag down and lay straight on the couch. "James, let's break up." James didn't even glance at me. He just said flatly, "Looks like the couch cover will have to be thrown out tomorrow, and the floor needs mopping." I gritted my teeth and repeated clearly, word by word,
"James,
let's
break
up." This was the 6th time I'd brought it up in the past 6 months. I'll admit, I liked James. I was reluctant to leave him, but I really couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't just because he was a germaphobe. It was because he treated me like I was dirty, too. In the year we'd been together, we'd barely held hands. Only once. Kissing, hugging, things couples should naturally do had never happened. James was the kind of person who would wash his hands 3 times after shaking hands with a friend. Worse still, in the 2 months we'd lived together, we slept in separate rooms. I wasn't allowed to enter his room, and the first thing I had to do after coming home was change slippers and take a shower. Even going to the toilet meant scrubbing it thoroughly with cleaner beforehand, and again afterward. Once, I got lazy and only rinsed it with water. The next day, James replaced the entire toilet. What a miserable life. What a miserable me. I knew deep down that James didn't love me. I wasn't that special someone, and I never would be. James finally looked up. His almond-shaped eyes flicked toward me briefly. I couldn't read any emotion in them. He only asked calmly, "Have you thought it through?" My heart twisted. The last time I tried to break up, he had asked the same question. And back then, I gave in. How could I let go of someone I liked so easily? But this time, I wasn't going to compromise. If he didn't love me, why accept my confession in the first place? If he didn't want to touch me, why agree to move in together? I didn't want to live like this anymore. Being with James felt like walking on eggshells for an entire year. I wanted to come home, collapse on the couch, scroll through my phone, and just exist, not worry about changing slippers or contaminating his pristine space. I wiped away a tear and sat up. I've thought it through. I'll pack my things and move out later. James frowned, looking at me intently, then finally said, "Okay. Do you want me to call you a car?" I clutched my chest, took a deep breath, and muttered to myself, "Don't get angry, don't get angry. Don't argue with an idiot." I got up and started angrily packing my bags. It was obvious I was running away from home. But when I reached the door, the more I thought about it, the more unwilling I felt. Why should I be the only one suffering while James stayed so indifferent?
No.
He needed to suffer too. I wasn't going to bear this pain alone. I dropped my luggage and marched back toward James's desk. James, clearly confused, asked, "Lily, what are you doing?" I didn't answer. I grabbed his collar and kissed him, forcefully. Then I bit his lip, vindicatively. And for good measure, I ran my hands across his chest before he could react. Then I grabbed my luggage and ran out. Behind me, I heard his voice yelling, "Lily Sanders, have you gone crazy?" That was our first kiss. And our last. The news of our breakup spread quickly. After moving out, I met with a manager who had tried to recruit me before. Their company had a long-standing partnership with foreign enterprises. After discussing salary and benefits, I bought a plane ticket without hesitation and left this heartbreaking city. In my first week at the new company, I secured an opportunity for overseas training based on my past performance. I admit it, I wanted to escape. I didn't want to see James again. I was afraid I'd weaken. On the flight abroad, I scrolled through the few, distant photos of James and me in my phone gallery. Tears welled up again. Then, I deleted them all. "James, I'll make you regret not cherishing me." I cried and cried. But worried about ruining my expensive makeup, I pulled out my compact mirror and quickly wiped the tears away. After 6 months of training, I returned to work at the new company, pouring my energy into my job. Gradually, The thoughts of James faded. Maybe that's the power of time. One evening, I lazily brewed a cup of coffee. I heard footsteps behind me, but didn't turn around. A familiar voice said, "Lily, still working overtime?" I turned. It was Ryan, a new colleague in our department. Like me, he worked hard. Back when he joined, I had joked, "Did you just break up too?" He smiled and answered, "Yeah." Maybe because we were in the same boat, we grew close quickly. We even went on business trips together, closer than siblings. I took a sip of coffee. "Isn't it obvious?" Ryan laughed. "Careful, or you'll end up with a receding hairline." I rolled my eyes at him. "If you can't say anything nice, then shut up." After a while, Ryan said again, "There's a gathering tomorrow night. Help me out, will you?" I replied bluntly, "No." Ding ding, phone notification. "Ryan Young has transferred $5,000 to you." I gladly accepted it and looked up at him. "I take back what I just said. Tell me, what do you need? As long as I can do it, I'll make it happen." Ryan had a slightly mischievous expression. "Pretend to be my girlfriend." I shamelessly said, "Add another 1,000. Ryan tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Deal." The next evening, I wore a sexy, figure-hugging red dress and walked into the gathering with Ryan. My figure wasn't anything amazing, but it was above average, and my face wasn't bad either. Ryan looked great, too. He enthusiastically greeted his friends and then introduced me. Living up to my professional ethics, I held Ryan's arm and stayed intimately close. When the crowd began to disperse, I froze. My smile stiffened. Not because of anything anyone said, but because I saw a very familiar figure. A figure I had been avoiding for 2 years, yet could never forget. My gaze followed him step by step as he walked toward us. James. A man I would recognize, even if he turned to ashes. When Ryan saw him, he immediately lit up. "Dr. Quinn, you're finally here. We've been waiting for you. This is my girlfriend, Lily Sanders." I awkwardly tugged at the corner of my mouth. James's eyes stayed fixed on me, and then I heard his deep voice. "Lily Sanders? Your girlfriend?" As soon as he said that, the air seemed to drop 10 degrees. It had to be an illusion. I swallowed hard and scolded myself. "Lily, what are you afraid of? You've already broken up. There's no connection anymore." After a silent pep talk, I forced a smile and reached out my hand. "Hello, Dr. Quinn." James held his wine glass, hesitating. I knew he wouldn't shake my hand. This severe germaphobe, who would wash his hands 3 times after shaking with others, how could he possibly touch me, his detestable ex-girlfriend? I vividly remembered the last time I forced myself on him. He looked shocked, his neatly ironed white shirt all wrinkled, a drop of blood on his lip from my bite. It was like a chaste male god had been violated. Thinking about it now, I still felt oddly thrilled. Seeing James hesitate, Ryan tried to pull my hand back to ease the awkwardness. But in the next second, James actually reached out and shook my hand. "Hello, Lily Sanders." I almost expected him to add, "Long time no see, my detestable ex-girlfriend." What shocked me more than the handshake itself was that he actually did it. Had this man reformed in the last 2 years? I quickly withdrew my hand and linked arms with Ryan again, still confused. Ryan laughed. "I didn't expect the usually germaphobic Dr. Quinn to shake hands voluntarily. You've changed a lot in the past year. You seem like a normal person now." Realizing his words were a bit off, Ryan quickly added, "No offense, haha. I didn't mean it like that." James didn't seem to mind. He didn't even look at Ryan, but glanced at me instead. "It's okay. What you said is actually quite accurate." Me. He. I didn't believe it for a second. James didn't linger. He chatted briefly, then turned to leave. I was itching with curiosity, and once the others were gone, I pulled Ryan aside and whispered, "How do you know Dr. Quinn? You've never mentioned him before." Ryan shrugged. About a year ago, I had a car accident and ended up in his ER. My wounds had motor oil, my clothes were covered in sand, and I stank of sweat. I had fainted, but his attitude almost revived me. Later I found out he was a germaphobe. Thought it was interesting, so I worked hard to befriend him. I almost burst out laughing. "Then why did he come here today? Isn't he super busy?" Ryan looked at me intently. How do you know he's busy?" I froze, then quickly recovered. "Aren't all doctors like that? You never know when there might be an emergency." Thinking back, I recalled my painful experience, how James was always busy. We barely spoke most days, and I often sat alone watching TV, while my boyfriend felt more like a houseplant. Still, I stuck with him for a year. I really admired my old self. Ryan didn't push further. True. But he came here recently on a business trip. Apparently, the hospital here has been trying to recruit him. But I doubt he'll accept. My heart skipped a beat. A job transfer? James might develop his career here? Back then, I'd gone through so much just to escape him, and now he might be moving here? But if they'd invited him several times and he still hadn't come, it was probably just a visit. My heart settled a bit. Ryan leaned in mysteriously. What? Taken a liking to him again? I rolled my eyes. Would you fall for someone who isn't normal? Ryan thought for a moment and nodded. You're right. Anyone who could fall for James would have to be a bit of a germaphobe themselves. Me. I feel like I've just been insulted. Ryan got called away by friends to drink and chat. I didn't really fit in with that scene. I had a bit too much to drink and went to use the restroom. But as soon as I stepped out of the banquet hall, I saw a familiar figure leaning on the railing. Wearing a suit, he looked as elegant as ever. I suddenly imagined him in his white coat, saving lives with those beautiful, slender hands, all while complaining about how dirty his patients were. I suddenly couldn't hold back my laughter, then lightened my steps, planning to sneak away. I really didn't know how to face James. But after just 2 steps, a familiar voice stopped me. Lily Sanders, where are you planning to run off to this time? I took a deep breath and calmly turned around. Oh, if it isn't Dr. Quinn. I don't think we're that familiar. What business is it of yours where I go? James narrowed his eyes and walked toward me, exuding an intimidating aura. I felt the pressure. Not familiar? Can I care about my ex-girlfriend? Care? That word actually came out of James's mouth. I thought he didn't know how to care about anyone. I forced an awkward smile. Dr. Quinn, you seem to have forgotten. We already broke up. James was tall, at least a head and a half taller than me. At eye level, all I could see was his chest. And looking at his chest brought back a memory I'd tried to suppress. The night I forced myself on him. He had been dressed just like this. Suit, crisp white shirt, a perfectly tied bow tie, radiating restraint. My inner voice screamed, Lily Sanders, you weren't in love. You were just infatuated with his looks. Then James asked, are you Ryan's girlfriend? I was stunned. Hadn't we just introduced ourselves earlier? Was he pretending to forget? Yes. Break up with him. Don't see him again. I looked up in surprise. It was still those same almond-shaped eyes, but now they burned with fury. I snapped. Are you sick? If you are, go get treatment. I turned to leave, wanting no further involvement. But in the next second, James grabbed my wrist and yanked me into his arms. His deep voice murmured against my ear, Lily Sanders, you've learned a few tricks in these 2 years. Then, without warning, he kissed my earlobe, then gently bit it. My brain exploded. Was James malfunctioning today? Hugging me on his own? Kissing me? James, let go of me. What do you mean by this? Do you want me to report you for harassment? My forehead throbbed. I coughed twice. I've already told you, I have a boyfriend. James suddenly chuckled. Boyfriend? Ryan already confessed. Said you scammed him out of $6,000. Me. Just then, another familiar voice called out, Lily. Ryan walked out, closing the door behind him. You two know each other, don't you? There was no hiding it now. Even if I didn't want to admit it, I had to. He's my not-so-normal ex-boyfriend. I thought Ryan would tease me or ask for juicy details, but instead, he looked at James with a hint of hostility. Was he harassing you just now? I nodded furiously. James's almond eyes narrowed, dark and stormy. Ryan pulled me behind him and said, James, even though I consider you a friend, if you didn't try to keep Lily 2 years ago, why are you harassing her now? It was a fair question. One that hit hard. But when I looked up and caught the flicker of loss in James's eyes, my heart twisted without warning. Ryan led me away, past the banquet hall, straight to his car. I sat in silence the whole way, lost in thought, until Ryan suddenly asked, Lily, do you still like James? Something in his voice sounded cautious, hesitant. I paused. I couldn't answer. The car went quiet. Then Ryan gave a bitter laugh, trying to keep his tone light. I get it. Thanks for pretending to be my girlfriend tonight. Guess you won't be scamming any more money out of me in the future. Let me take you home. I wasn't a love-struck teenager anymore. Of course, I could sense Ryan's feelings, even if he didn't say them aloud. So I gently replied, I'm sorry. No need. I'll take a taxi back myself. My tone was polite, distant. Ryan watched me get out of the passenger seat, but didn't stop me. His car idled for about a minute, then finally drove off. I took a taxi home, sat on the couch, and stared blankly for what felt like forever. 2 years. I thought I had let go. But just one glimpse of James, and the walls I'd painstakingly built came crashing down. Fragile, beyond imagination. The more I thought about it, the more miserable I felt. In the end, I channeled all that heartbreak into hunger. Tearfully, I ordered fried chicken. At the banquet, I'd only had alcohol. I was starving. Naturally, I ended up in the hospital that night, diagnosed with acute gastritis. I realized something. In these 2 years of living alone, I'd grown comfortable. I could come home, lie on the couch, scroll on my phone, order takeout, drink soda. And my stomach paid the price. Half-conscious, I remembered. During the year I lived with James, although he nitpicked every detail of my life, he would knock on my door every day to call me for meals. Meals he cooked himself. Though each one came with criticism. You dropped a grain of rice, can't you drink soup without spilling it? Still, he cooked. Every single day. His germophobia was always the most obvious thing about him. So obvious, it made people forget all the other parts of him. My misfortune wasn't just ending up in the hospital, it was seeing James there, too. It was the first time I'd ever seen him look panicked, leading a team of doctors in white coats. And then he pushed the other doctor aside. Took over my care. Enduring the pain, I asked, "Aren't you not a doctor here? Why are you in charge?" James responded calmly, "I will be in the future." My heart sank. I went quiet. Then James raised his gloved hand and wiped the corner of my mouth with a tissue. I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, he raised a brow. "Fried chicken? Or barbecue?" "Shut up." A nurse tried to comfort me and said, "You might need a gastroscopy. Do you want it done under general anesthesia or just local?" General anesthesia requires a family member's signature. My blood ran cold. I feared nothing, except injections and surgery. Just imagining that thick tube sliding down my throat made my stomach churn. "General anesthesia," I said in a trembling voice. "I want general." The nurse nodded. "Okay. Then where's your family member?" I froze. I didn't have one. My parents died in a car crash when I was in high school. I survived on compensation and scholarships through college. I was an orphan. Always had been. James looked at me, then said to the nurse, "Get the consent form." "I'll sign. I'm her family." I stared at him. The pain was too intense to speak. They gave me the anesthesia, and I drifted off. When I woke up, I was in a ward. A nurse was checking my for. My throat felt dry. I asked, "Nurse, where's Dr. Quinn?" It was the same nurse who'd prepped me for the procedure. She smiled softly. "Dr. Quinn already went back to the other hospital. He won't be taking his position here for a couple more days." My heart thudded. He agreed to the transfer? The nurse nodded with a knowing smile. "Yes. After all, his family is here. How could he not transfer?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth and denied it. "I'm not his family member." The nurse looked unconvinced. Then last night, I cut her off. "Can you really expect a not-so-normal person to say normal things?" The nurse fell silent. Lying in bed, waiting for the anesthesia to wear off, I suddenly remembered I still had to go to work today. I hurriedly grabbed my phone and checked the time. 10:30 a.m. I dejectedly flopped back onto the bed and unlocked my phone to message my manager with an explanation. Before I could even type, ding ding ding, a series of notifications popped up. It was my manager. "When did you get married? You've been hiding it deep. If you're not feeling well, I'll give you a week off. Report back next week, or your bonus is gone." Scrolling up, I saw call records. Dozens of late-night calls made from my phone. The last one lasting over 2 minutes. I could guess with my toes who made them, and I could imagine what James said. That afternoon, I took my prescribed meds and snuck home from the hospital. I solemnly vowed to eat healthily and maintain regular meals from now on. But the moment I got home, I curled up on the couch with takeout porridge, watching dramas. So much for the vow. When I got bored, I scrolled through my phone. In the company group chat, someone had resigned. It was Ryan. Then he messaged me privately. "I'm leaving, Lily. I hope you and Dr. Quinn can be happy." I sighed. Another close friend, gone. But thinking it over, I really didn't have any romantic feelings for Ryan, not even when he held my hand, protected me, or when we pretended to be a couple. With James, though, it was different. Chaotic and infuriatingly different. I even thought about quitting and finding a job abroad. Any excuse not to see James again. I typed okay and hit send. It didn't go through. A red exclamation mark appeared on the screen. 1 year of friendship. Gone in an instant. Sometimes I wish I could be like Ryan, able to walk away cleanly, without attachment.
Ding.
A new message. I looked at the screen. A familiar doctor avatar. White coat, syringe in hand. Open the door.
Wait.
2 years ago, I blocked and deleted all of James's contact info. How did he get through again? Right, he must have unblocked himself using my phone last night. Annoyed, I replied with just a question mark. James replied, "Open the door, Lily." Just those 4 words, and I couldn't even form a proper rejection. This was the first time he had ever called me Lily. Usually he either said nothing or used my full name with that cold tone. Then more messages followed. I brought a lot of things. After all, I saved your life last night. You won't be so heartless, right? Trick. Definitely a trick. Still, being the soft-hearted idiot I am, I went to open the door. There he stood, with just a grocery bag and a black plastic bag in hand. I crossed my arms. "This is your a lot of things." James didn't answer. Instead, he looked behind me. I turned to see what had caught his eye and immediately flushed. My apartment looked like a war zone. Not dirty, just chaotic. A far cry from James's pristine place. Swallowing my embarrassment, I snapped. "What are you looking at?" "Oh, right, Dr. Quinn is a germaphobe. Probably doesn't want to step foot in my messy place. Goodbye, don't come back." I moved to shut the door, but James blocked it with his hand. His tone was unexpectedly soft. "It's okay. I can accept this." It sounded a bit forced. Then he pulled out a pair of men's slippers from the black bag, slipped them on, and walked in like he owned the place. I muttered, "James, have you really become normal over the past 2 years?" He didn't answer, just found the kitchen and washed his hands 3 times. And I instantly knew. I had asked a pointless question. "Lily Sanders," he said, wiping his hands as he walked back to me. "I thought you'd be living well after leaving me. But clearly, that's not the case." I slumped onto the couch. "You came all the way here just to scold me?"
No.
"I told you yesterday. I want to get back together." The year I spent with James flashed through my mind. Bittersweet memories tightened in my chest. "James, do you even know what you're saying?" I whispered. "Do you think I'm still that girl who loved you so much she tolerated being treated like a stranger for an entire year?" Silence fell between us. Then James broke it. "But when you ran off, you sexually harassed me. You have to take responsibility." The heavy mood shattered. I blinked. Did he really just bring that up? A bite. A touch. Was it really that serious? I turned my head, too embarrassed to continue. But James came closer and gently turned my face back to his. "Lily Sanders, I'm sorry," he said sincerely. "You were my first girlfriend. When you confessed to me, I saw how much it meant to you. I didn't reject you because I didn't dislike you. I just didn't know how to respond." He took a breath. "I've never had close contact with many people. I didn't touch you partly because I had no idea how, and partly because we weren't married." "Wait, so even hugging, holding hands, and light kisses had to wait till marriage?" James looked into my eyes and smiled. "Lily Sanders, do you remember the first time you held my hand?" Memories gradually filled my mind. I remembered. I would remember that day for the rest of my life. After working for a year post-graduation, I met James. I pursued him for a long time and finally, holding flowers with a nervous heart, I confessed to him seriously. At that time, I was so afraid that James would reject me. But he didn't. He agreed. I was so happy. Carefully and tentatively, I reached out to hold his hand. But before it could even warm up, he avoided it and said, Did you wash your hands?" I really wanted to thank him. Maybe it was because my full enthusiasm was hurt by his avoidance. I felt very uncomfortable, lowering my head, feeling like I had been disliked. Thinking about it now, he even stuttered a bit when he spoke. "Actually, if you had looked up, you would have seen that my face was red. At that time, I wasn't disgusted by you. I was just at a loss and habitually used common phrases to cover up. Later, I kept thinking, if you had taken the initiative one more time, maybe I really wouldn't have been able to refuse." I was momentarily stunned and a bit embarrassed. I quickly said, "Why are you telling me all this? That was so long ago." James let go of my face and said casually, "If you don't want to hear it, forget it. But I did do wrong in the past. Now it's my turn to take the initiative." I sat frozen on the couch, carefully savoring his words, feeling a bittersweet sense of victory. I never thought I would hear those words from James. I couldn't understand it. So I opened my mouth and asked, "How did you suddenly realize this?" James's deep eyes stared at me. "After you sexually harassed me." Me. Facts have proven that it's easier to move mountains than to change someone's nature. I watched helplessly as James's brows furrowed into a J shape while he, wearing gloves, cleaned my house until it was spotless, and even cooked a meal, just like when we lived together before. I always knew James was actually a very diligent person. Maybe his innate germophobia didn't allow him to tolerate any dirty or messy places at home. He is a person with terrifying self-discipline, while I am someone without germophobia and with very poor self-discipline. I silently cried in my heart, then moved my legs and shamelessly sat down at the dining table in front of the delicious-looking and great-smelling food. I was about to start eating when suddenly a glass of warm water appeared beside me, and then a palm stretched out with 4 pills lying on it. James frowned and said, "Take the medicine before eating." My heart skipped a beat or two. Then I picked up the pills and swallowed them with water. I ate while watching his expression, afraid he'd say something like, "You dropped a grain of rice," or "Can you use serving chopsticks when picking up food?" or "Can you not spill when drinking soup?" But surprisingly, he didn't. He just ate quietly. I believe James has really changed a lot, at least toward me. Halfway through the meal, James said, "Don't eat takeout in the future. It's not good for your stomach." I let out a long holding back the smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. "But I don't know how to cook." "Leave it. I'll do it." James received a phone call and left in a hurry. I saw him off at the door. Ding, ding, ding. I answered the phone, and a woman's voice came through the other end. "Lily, I think I just saw that Zach Peterson, the one who hit your parents years ago. He was dressed really well, even wearing an expensive watch. He doesn't look like he's short of money at all." My whole body trembled, and memories I had sealed away suddenly flooded out like a dam breaking. Years ago, after my parents were killed in the car accident, the court ordered compensation of $1.06 million, but the perpetrator said he couldn't afford it. The confiscated assets were meager, and I had to rely on that small compensation and scholarships to get through college. I remembered Zach was drunk at the time and showed no remorse. I was just drunk. It wasn't intentional. What's the use of scolding me? Anyway, I can't afford to pay. If I have to go to jail, so be it. My eyes turned red. I almost stabbed that evil man to death with a kitchen knife. I cried and screamed, demanding he apologize and kneel before my parents' memorial tablets and repent. He did apologize and kneel, but there was no remorse on his face. Later, he was taken away by the police and sentenced to 6 years and 4 months. I fought for justice for my parents, because although he didn't flee, he was completely unrepentant. I gripped the phone tightly. I almost forgot 6 years have passed so quickly. "Aunt Linda, thank you for telling me." I wiped away a tear and hung up. Then I called the police to consult about the situation. If someone has the ability to pay but refuses to do so, you can appeal to the court for forced execution. But I was already in another city, and going back would take a lot of time. So I decided to try a private negotiation first, hoping that person might have at least some conscience left. The next day, I bought a plane ticket and sat in the waiting area. James sent me a message. "Where did you go?" My nose stung, and tears fell without warning. After my parents passed away, James was the only person who gave me warmth. I remembered when I first met him. I didn't want to return to my cold, empty home, so I froze on the street all night and was sent to the hospital where he worked. Later, he gave me a clean handkerchief, disgustedly telling me to wipe my tears before he'd examine me. Perhaps when people are at their most vulnerable, they tend to develop different feelings. At that time, James was like a ray of light, even if it was just an unintentional act on his part. He said, "Go get the consent form. I'm her family member. I'll sign it." I hadn't heard the word family member for a long time, and he said he was mine. Perhaps, no matter how long it's been, no matter how he treated me, I would always fall for him deeply. At that moment, remembering my parents' faces, I helplessly told him everything. His call came through. I wiped the tears on my phone screen and answered. "Hello." James's deep voice came through the phone. "Don't be afraid. Send me the address and wait for me." I sent him the address. In no time, James sent me a screenshot. It was a ticket for the next flight. The call stayed connected. I leaned back in my seat, silent. On James's end, there was the constant sound of traffic until my name was called. James, I have to board the plane now. I'll hang up first. His breathing on the other end was a bit heavy. Okay. I switched my phone to airplane mode. I never dragged my feet on important matters and quickly arrived near the home of the man who had killed my parents in the car accident. I searched around his house but couldn't find him. I asked Aunt Linda, who lived nearby, but she said she didn't know. I sat dejectedly at the door when a man in a suit, driving a niche brand car, stopped in front of me. I would recognize this man, even if he turned to ashes. I stared at him intently. He seemed to notice me too, and gave an awkward smile. Look, I just got out of jail, and the creditor is already at my door. I said, word by word, clearly, pay back the money. Zach sighed. You don't look like you're short of money, do you? Anyway, I don't have any. My eyes reddened with anger. Driving a car, wearing an expensive watch, this is what you call not having money. Zach shamelessly said, these were given to me by my uncle. What's wrong with that? Is it not allowed? I wasn't after the money because I could earn that back myself. I just felt the injustice and the worthlessness on behalf of my parents. Why could Zach live so comfortably while my parents could never come back? He got out of the car, not wanting to deal with me anymore, and was about to enter his house. But I stubbornly blocked him, refusing to let him pass. Zach was obviously getting impatient and was about to push me away when suddenly a figure covered me. James stood in front of me, still slightly out of breath. It seemed he had rushed over. Zach was now separated from me by James. Who are you? James said calmly. I'm her husband. Since you don't want to pay back the money, we don't need to negotiate anymore. You can talk directly to my lawyer. I was stunned. Lawyer? Where did the lawyer come from? Just as I finished speaking, a chubby man in a suit carrying a briefcase came running from not far away, panting as he said, Oh my goodness, Dr. Quinn. Can you have some consideration for me? I'm carrying 160 pounds of meat here. It felt a bit unreliable, but after James took Zach and that chubby lawyer inside, we received good news in less than half an hour. Zach relented, saying he would compensate me in installments, $20,000 each month. I agreed. To show sincerity, Zach gritted his teeth and immediately transferred $20,000 to me. I stared blankly at the balance on my phone. My other hand, hanging by my side, was suddenly enveloped by warmth. It was James. He held my hand, eyes full of heartache. Why are you so silly? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I felt the warmth transmitted from his palm. This was the second time James had taken the initiative to hold my hand. He filled the emptiness in my heart completely, but I still stubbornly avoided it, just like he had avoided me back then. I haven't agreed to get back together with you. Who said you could hold my hand? James raised his hand and stroked my head. Okay, then when will you agree? I turned my head away, not looking at him, but the corners of my lips curled into a smile that even I felt was genuine. We'll see. The matter was resolved satisfactorily, and the three of us bought return tickets together. Life slowly got back on track. I lounged around for 2 days while James was busy at the hospital. After all, he had just transferred, so there was a lot to do. One day, I was eating chips and watching a drama when a phone call came in. It was from James. I answered without thinking. Hello. A woman's voice came from the other end. Just as I was about to grit my teeth, she said, Is this Lily Sanders? Dr. Quinn has fainted at the hospital. Please come quickly. I froze. Even a chip I had just picked up fell from my hand. I didn't even change my slippers and ran straight to the hospital, finding the nurse who had called me earlier. It was the same nurse who had given me anesthesia. She gave me a knowing look and pointed to the break room. Dr. Quinn is inside. You're his emergency contact, you know. My face flushed red, but I couldn't care about anything else and hurried in. As soon as I stepped in, I saw James drinking water with relish, his face rosy and not at all like someone who had fainted. Me. James noticed me, then froze in place, looking at me. How did you come out wearing slippers? It's so dirty. Me. Did you not get the main point, sir? I asked, full of killing intent. Didn't you faint? James coughed twice and set down the water cup. Yes, I did faint just now. I really believed it. I'm such an idiot. Liar. I snapped. I turned to leave, but my wrist was grabbed by him, and the force pulled me into his embrace. That move again. I pushed him hard but couldn't move him. Instead, I felt his firm, muscular chest. His chin rested on my shoulder. His tone was somewhat pitiful. I really did faint. I'm off work. Can you take me home? His breath and magnetic voice enveloped me, exuding an irresistible aura. There was a plot here, but I found I couldn't refuse. However, when we left, we ended up at my doorstep, and he even bought me a new pair of slippers along the way. James said he was living in the hospital dormitory, and it was very far away, like 10,000 miles away. He had to get up at 5 in the morning to go to work and might not even have time for breakfast. I felt heartache, but I didn't say anything. James sat on the living room couch, then suddenly said, "Your place is close to the hospital."
Me.
Then he looked at me intently and said, "I want to live with you." This time, the words of refusal that had reached my lips all crumbled and were swallowed back into my stomach under his serious gaze. James and I got back together. He still had germophobia, but he no longer avoided me. I became that special one. I returned to the life of changing slippers and showering when I got home. But this time was different. After showering, I looked at James sitting on the couch in his smooth pajamas, and my face blushed. Even though it was just pajamas, they were still neat and wrinkle-free. I suddenly had an idea and slowly walked over. I tentatively hooked his finger. This time, he didn't avoid me, nor did he say that line, "Did you wash your hands?" Instead, he turned his wrist and completely enveloped my hand. His hand was very long and beautiful. At that moment, I let go. I boldly nestled into his arms, wantonly messing up his neatly ironed pajamas. He raised his hand to grab my mischievous hands. "Don't move." I clearly heard his breathing become heavier. James turned his head and stared at me, his eyes like a wolf's. I rubbed my nose and giggled. After all, a chaste male god is easily violated. "So, boys, you must protect yourselves when you're out." Lily Sanders. I looked up, and the next moment, James's kiss fell. His large hand gripping my waist tightened and grew hotter. Then I felt a little pain on my lip. I frowned and opened my eyes, just in time to see James's playful gaze. "You bit me back then, so I have to bite you back this time." I couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect Dr. Quinn to be so vindictive. James hugged me and said slowly, "Let's go see the parents tomorrow." I looked at him, puzzled. Then he said, "We'll see my parents in the morning and your parents in the afternoon. I heard it only costs $9 to get married. This time, do you still want to run away?"